Thank you so much for watching Landumc Goes There. Please subscribe and hit the like button and the bell notification button. The neo-Western action film that was written, co-produced, edited, and directed by Robert Rodriguez took the big screen by storm in 1995. That film was Desperado. It's considered the second part of Rodriguez's Mexican trilogy. The movie stars Antonio Banderas, Joaquim de Almeida, Salma Hayek, Steve Buscemi, Cheech Marin, and Quentin Tarantino. The director picks up his successful independent debut film of El Mariachi with this south-of-the-border action. Bucco is a wealthy but bloodthirsty drug kingpin who has complete control of this Mexican border town. Bucco and his men make the mistake of angering El Mariachi, played by Antonio Banderas. He's a former musician that walks around with a guitar case that is stuffed full of an assortment of weapons. You see, Bucco was responsible for the death of his girlfriend, and he also put a bullet through his guitar-playing hand, making him unable to play the guitar anymore. He's hell-bent on revenge. So this musician turned killing machine arrives in this town with the sole purpose of putting Bucco out of business. Though he finds few allies except for one girl named Carolina, played by Salma Hayek, who runs a bookstore that doesn't get much business at all. Banderas' character tracks down Bucco and takes on his army of desperados and leaves a trail of his own blood in the process. Carlos Gallardo, who played the role of El Mariachi, appears in this film as Campa, who's a friend of Banderas' character. Since Banderas replaced him as the actor for the main character, the filmmakers reshot the final showdown from El Mariachi as a flashback sequence for Banderas' character in Desperado. They originally cast Raul Julia in the role of Bucco, but he ended up dying in October of 1994, shortly before production began on the film. Principal photography basically took place in Mexico, right across the border from Del Rio, Texas. The movie's score is written and performed by the Los Angeles rock band Los Lobos, performing Chicano rock and traditional ranchera music. Their performance of Mariachi Suite won the Grammy Award for Best Pop Instrumental Performance at the 1995 Grammy Awards. They had a backup all along if Antonio Banderas didn't want to play the role of Mariachi, and that backup was John Leguizamo. Luckily, they didn't have to go that route, although he probably would have done a real good job. But once you see Banderas in this character, it's hard to imagine anybody else playing it properly. During the production, the director Robert Rodriguez and the actor Danny Trejo ended up by chance finding out that they were second cousins. Trejo plays a ruthless knife slinger in this film. Now, the bathroom scene before the second bar shootout was directed by Antonio Banderas himself. You see, the director, Rodriguez, didn't like to use second unit crews to do work on his films, and Banderas asked if he could direct the scene himself, which Rodriguez agreed to let him. The movie was done on a relatively low budget, so low that they used the same stuntmen over and over throughout the movie. Banderas talks about this in a 2019 interview, saying that they did some really dangerous stuff and cut some corners that would never fly today at all. No CGI was ever used, and during the explosion that happened between Banderas and Salma Hayek, the fire behind them envelops the whole screen. It was all completely real. Everybody there remembered the smell of burning hair. Banderas' hair and Salma's hair, plus all the people on the camera crew. For an action movie, this had no budget at all to speak of. It's said that there was one guy in the film that Banderas killed 9 times. He killed him with a beard, without a beard, with a mustache, with blonde hair, with glasses, without glasses. And the running joke was that this stunt guy probably made more money than anybody in the movie. Now we see some great performances by Steve Buscemi and Cheech Marin, but all of their scenes had to be shot real quickly because they could only afford Buscemi for 7 days and Cheech for just 6. That's the reason that during the shootout in the bar, Marin's character is rarely seen during the action. If they had included him in the entire sequence, it would have taken much longer to shoot. To circumvent this, they had Marin duck behind the bar as the sequence begins. They then approximated what the aftermath would look like at the end and filmed his remaining scenes around it. Now, Salma Hayek is unbelievably beautiful in this film, and in it, she shoots her first nude scene, an experience that she felt was very traumatizing. She says it wasn't in the original script, but the director brought it up to her and talked her into doing it. She says everybody was completely polite and courteous about what she was doing, but she was still terrified, and she would start to cry before filming each clip, telling everybody that she couldn't do it, that she was too afraid to. Eventually, she was comfortable enough to finish the scene. When she took her family to see the movie, she requested that her brothers and her father get up and leave the theater during this nude scene. And once it was over, they were allowed to come back in. She just couldn't stand the thought of her family seeing her in a scene like that. Now, ironically, later on, there's a clip of her breastfeeding a very hungry baby boy while she was visiting Sierra Leone. And she had this filmed and did it just to make a point, because mothers over there stopped breastfeeding their infants within a few months after the birth because of pressure from their husbands. You see that tradition has it in some areas that it's not acceptable to have sexual relations with a breastfeeding woman. And this in itself causes one of the highest infant mortality rates in the world. So Miss Hayek was doing everything she could to bring attention to these starving kids. Go back and take a look at this film. If you like a shoot-'em-up, action-packed film, you're going to love this one. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.